Okay, you need to go ahead and get out your lesson 6-7 notes, and you're going to go ahead and hit pause while you are recording all of this information on your notes. But if you do not like the way that my notes are set up, you can go into your book, which is on page 495. And you will get this exact same stuff that I have written on my notes up here on page 495. So go ahead and hit pause and go ahead and get all your notes down. Do not forget this example over here, your consonants and like terms. These are going to come in handy when we get through most of this lesson. So go ahead and stop, pause, get the notes done, and then when you're ready, pick back up and hit play. Okay, back on page 395, we're going to quickly go over this before we get into some practice. It says, vocabulary startup. When addition and subtraction signs separate an algebraic expression into parts, each part is called a term. The numerical factor of each of a term that contains a variable is called a coefficient. A term without a variable is called a constant, basically a number. Like terms are terms that contain the same variables, such as x, 2x, and 3x. They're all like terms because they all have the variable x. So, taking a look here, the three terms are, here are just the regular terms, 3x, 7, and x. The like terms are 3x and x, and the constant is 7 because there is no variable with that. So down below, if we were to do this, we could fill this in really quickly, as this would be known as the terms. Oh, my goodness, let's try that again. The terms. And this would be known as the constant. And then these two have both variables that are n, so they are like terms. Okay. That's the start. Those are the most important vocabulary words that you will need for this chapter. So let's flip through, or for this lesson. And we are going to work on simplifying expressions with one variable. There's only one, okay? When we get to the next page, we're going to introduce two variables. So possibly like an x and a y, or an L and an M, or a T and an S. But for this purpose, we are looking at only one variable. So here it says simplify the expression 4x. We know that when we have the parentheses and we have a number outside that parentheses, that we are going to be multiplying. So when I look at this, when it is actually written out, what I am really looking at is I'm looking at 4 times 6, because it's the distributive property, and 4 times x. Okay? When you put that all together, you would get your like consonants, which is the associative property, 4 times 6, which is 24, and then your x, because you have 6x, and when you put that together, you get 24x. All you're doing is just multiplying. That's it. Let's take a look at these examples down here. We're going to simplify each expression. So what we're going to do is we're first going to look at what numbers we can combine together, or variables we can combine together. So when I look at the simplifying expressions, obviously I see 3 times x times 11. Well, when I write this, I'm going to change it around and put 3 times 11 times x. So 3 times 11 is 33. 33 times x equals 33x. Over here, I'm adding 1, 2, I have 2x plus another x. Well, 2x plus 1x is 3x. So I have 3 x's. Taking a look at this, I'm going to combine my like terms. 7x plus x plus 8. My 8x plus 7x plus 1x is 8x plus my leftover 8. So when I simplify, I get 8x plus 8. Okay, let's take a look at this real world problem down here. It says 3 friends will pay X dollars for admission to the museum plus $1 to view the mummy exhibit. A fourth friend will pay admission but will not view the mummy exhibit. Write and simplify an expression that represents the total cost. So we have 3 friends. Each are paying some amount of money we don't know, plus $1 to view the mummy exhibit. A fourth friend will pay the admission but will not go to the mummy exhibit. So this person's on the outside because they're not going to the mummy museum. So when you look at this, you write it as 3 in parentheses, x plus 1, and parentheses plus 1. Plus 1x. There we go. All right. When you look at this and you rewrite this, you're going to distribute 3x right here times 3 times 1, which is 3, plus x. We're going to combine our like terms, which gives us a total of 4x plus 3. So the total cost is 4x, some amount of money that we don't know, plus $3 extra. So let's take a look at this one. This next one says, write and simplify the expression for the total of 6 friends to go to the museum, and if only 4 friends pay for the exhibit. So if only 4 friends are going, and we know it's going to be x plus $1, but then we have 2 friends who are not going to be going to the mummy exhibit. So it's going to look like this. When I combine my terms, and I do my 4x plus 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2x. What ones do I have in common? Like terms right here. That's going to give me 6x plus 4. So I'm adding because I'm adding right here. So 6x plus 4. All right, let's take a look at the next page. Simplifying expressions with 2 variables. So now we're going to have an x and a y, or we're going to have an s and a t. So we got to make sure that we combine the like terms. So when you see 2 of them that are the same, we need to try to get those together. Okay, so let's take a look at this example right here. Remember, you should be doing these with me so that you have them in your notes in case you need something to go back to. Sorry, my voice is losing it. All right, here's our problem. 14y plus x, those are in parentheses, plus 22. If you look at this, this is commutative property. All it is adding. So we can move this around because it doesn't matter which order they're in, right? That's what commutative property is all about. 6 plus 3 equals 9. 3 plus 6 equals 9. It's the exact same thing. So we're going to move these around so that we can combine our like terms. And it does not matter what way you do that, but just do it. So basically, I have now moved them so that I have my y's together because they are my like terms. They are the same. So what is 22y plus 14y? Well, that's going to give me 36y plus x by itself. Okay, so that's going to be my answer. That is how you simplify this expression. Okay, we're not even into equations yet, but this is what's going to help us when we get to equations. All right, let's take a look at the next one. We are going to simplify 4 in parentheses 2x plus y. Again, this is the distributive property, so we need to distribute that 4. So I'm going to distribute it to 4 times 2x, which is going to give me 8x, plus 4 times y, which is going to give me 4y. That's it. That's my answer. Just distributing. We just have 2 different variables in there. Okay, it's nothing that is going to be super hard. So now we get to factoring. Oh, look at that. Hang on. Telephone call. Oh, okay, so there was a commercial break for me to answer the phone. And now we're back at it. Here we go. So we're back to factoring. Factoring 2x. Oops, hang on. That just moved on me. Not what I wanted to do. All right, 27x plus 18y. So we're going to prime factor 27 just like we've done before. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it right over here, and then I'll just have to erase it. So 27, we're going to prime factor it. I can take out a 3, left with a 9. 3 times 9 is 27. I know that I can take out a 3 and a 3. which means that I am left with 3 times 3 times 3, and I cannot forget my x. So notice over here, I'm going to arrow it in the red. Okay, they have 3 times 3 times 3 times x. So now we're going to prime factor 18. Do that anymore. It's making lots of noises. All right, so I can take out a 2. I'm left with a 9 because 2 times 9 is 18. And I know that 9 can be broken down into 3 and 3 with my prime numbers. But I'm left with my y. So back over here with my red. Notice 2 times 3 times 3 times y. Okay? So when I set that all out, I notice that 3 and 3 they have in common. So 3 times 3 is 9, which means that the greatest common factor is 9, which means that is my number that is going to go on the outside. This is where a lot of people are making mistakes and not realizing what you're doing. That greatest common factor, when you are factoring, it goes on the outside. So what am I left with? With my 27, I'm left with 3x plus, what am I left with on my 18? Plus my 2y. Now, here's my check. I always like to check to make sure I did it right. I'm going to distribute it because it's a lot easier to check through distributing. 9 times 3x is 27x plus 9 times 2y gives me 18y. That is where I started, which now I know that I have done it correctly. Okay, let's do some of these examples together. And this is going to be the deal. I'm going to do these 3. And then I'm going to create another video that has more examples. If you do not feel comfortable moving on, then you need to watch the second video. If you feel like you've got it, then by all means, after these 3 examples that I do, then stop and go on to your homework. But I'm talking about those people who do not feel comfortable, that I need you to stop or not stop, but finish these 3 and then watch the second video until you feel comfortable. Okay, so let's go ahead and simplify. I notice that I have a couple of x's, and then I'm going to underline this one differently. So I notice that I have 3x plus 2x, which gives me 5x's plus a 9y. I'm combining my like terms. On the next one, 7, 3x plus y. I'm going to distribute. 7 times 3x gives me 21x plus 7 times y gives me 7y. And the last one, let's go ahead and factor 12. I can take out a 2 and a 6, which would give me a 2 and a 6, or sorry, a 2 and a 3. So with my 12, I'm left with 2 times 2 times 2 times my x. Do not forget that. Let's prime factor 8. 8 can be out 2 and 4, and then that can be out 2 and 2, which means my 8, oh, sorry, this should be 3. Hang on. 2 times 3 times x. So my 8 is 2 times 2 times 2 times y. So what do they have in common? They have 2 and 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. That's on the outside because that is my greatest common factor. Remember, that's the number we're distributing. The biggest number we have, that is going to be your greatest common factor. Then what am I left with 12? My 3 times my x, which is 3x, plus what am I left with at 8? I'm left with 2 times y, which is 2y. I'm going to double check to make sure that I'm right. So I'm going to do 4 times 3x. I know that that gives me 12x plus 4 times 2y, which gives me 8y. Okay, again, if this is not making sense, you need to continue and watch the second video. If you feel like you have it, then move on to your homework. Okay, and your homework is posted up on the board. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but you need to make sure that you understand it. It looks like our homework is lesson 7, and it is odds. Okay, so lesson 7, odds. If this makes sense, move on. If not, watch some of the examples on the second video, which is going to be filled with examples.